Let's just dive right into this explainer. Welcome to NFL Nexus. If you're obsessed with the deep, strategic chess matches of football analysis, do me a favor, subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and let us know what you think in the comments down below. And hey, if you want to take it a step further and support these deep dives, consider becoming a channel member. Now, let's set the scene here. A championship, it isn't just won under the bright, glorious lights of February. It's built in the shadows, it's constructed in the grueling, completely untelevised hours of late spring, in the brutal, suffocating heat of summer training camps. For the 2026 Houston Texans, the concrete foundation is already poured. The elite household names, they're locked in. On paper, this roster is absolutely loaded. But, as we all know in this league, the difference between a devastating, heartbreaking playoff exit and actually hoisting that Lombardi trophy, it almost always comes down to the margins.
So it brings up this really terrifying question. How do you perfect a roster that is already widely considered to be one of the absolute best in the game? I mean, for opposing teams, it's a nightmare scenario. But for a front office, it's an obsessive 24/7 pursuit. The core is completely set, the stars are paid, the premium draft picks, they're already in the building, walking the halls. But listen, perfection in the modern NFL isn't just found in the glitz and glamour of the first round of the draft anymore. It's found in the unseen battles. The silent, meticulous calculations made by the general manager when no one else is looking. The hidden chess moves that happen literally right before OTAs kick off. Today, we're pulling back the curtain to look at those exact microscopic moves.
Because the margins, those final few roster spots, that is precisely where Super Bowls are won or lost. We're talking about the 51st, 52nd, and 53rd men on the roster. Now, to the casual fan sitting on the couch, these spots, they might just seem like filler, just basic break in case of emergency injury insurance. But inside the building, inside that front office, these spots are the ultimate deciding factor. Just think about a grueling, physically unforgiving 17-game regular season. The sheer physical attrition is staggering. It's like a war of attrition. When the starters are absolutely gassed, fighting through the freezing cold of the fourth quarter in late December, when catastrophic injuries inevitably strike the trenches. The guys occupying these final, seemingly insignificant spots are the ones who determine if you advance or if you're packing your bags and cleaning out your locker. The Texans are meticulously engineering these final spots right this second, agonizing over every single detail.
Section 1. Following the guaranteed money and decoding the front office's undrafted clues.
Okay, so to find out exactly who is going to win these silent, brutal wars in training camp, we have to play detective. We have to follow the financial clues deliberately left by the front office. $3.1 million. In 2026, the standard 3-year minimum contract for an undrafted free agent sits at exactly that number, $3.1 million. Now, on the surface, that makes it look like everyone is on an equal playing field, right? But come on, we know the NFL is never equal. The very second the draft ends, absolute, unadulterated chaos begins. It is literally the Wild West. General managers, scouts, coaches, they're scrambling, frantically working the phones, trying to secure players who, for whatever reason, just slipped through those 7 rounds. To actually convince a highly coveted player to sign with Houston instead of the other 31 teams currently blowing up their agent's cell phone, the Texans have to offer extra guarantees, sweeten the pot. And remember, they are severely restricted by a hard league cap of roughly $200,000 on total signing bonuses for their entire undrafted class. So when they hand out big, guaranteed cash up front, you better believe it is a highly calculated, heavily targeted strike. And when you visually stack the top 4 guarantees side by side, the Texans' true offseason priorities instantly, undeniably reveal themselves. Just look at the total guaranteed column. We aren't talking about pocket change here. Giving out this much cash up front completely proves these players had a massive, highly competitive market just minutes after the draft concluded. This money is subject to offsets, meaning, sure, if Houston cuts the player and he signs somewhere else, the Texans get a cap credit. But giving out $250,000 in base salary guarantees, that means you fully intend to keep them on the final roster. Look at the numbers. Noah Whittington at running back securing nearly $268,000. Colin Wright locking down $262,500. Wide receiver Jalen Walthall pulling in $220,000. These guys aren't just mere camp bodies brought in to take some practice reps. The expectations inside the building are sky high. But there is one name at the very top of this list that demands our complete and undivided attention. James Neal III. Over $277,000 guaranteed. That includes the maximum $30,000 signing bonus allowed. That, right there, is an absolute premium investment for an undrafted player. This massive financial guarantee perfectly, brilliantly illustrates the Texans' master plan. Just consider this stark contrast.
Across 8 different draft selections in 2026, Houston completely, totally ignored the offensive tackle position. Zero draft capital spent there, not a single pick. Yet they turned around and made a massive financial investment in a single undrafted tackle. Now, let's be clear. This wasn't some oops moment or an oversight in the war room. They didn't just forget to draft a tackle. This was a cold, calculated strategy. They clearly didn't want to waste a valuable 5th or 6th round pick on a player they weren't entirely sold on. Instead, they kept their powder dry. The front office intentionally paved a viable, highly lucrative path specifically for James Neal III. They evaluated their depth chart right behind their primary backups, Trent Brown and Blake Fisher, identified a potential vulnerability, and aggressively bought their guy in free agency literally minutes after the draft ended. It allowed them to save their precious draft picks for other immediate needs while still securing a premier talent. So it begs the question, why James Neal III? Why him over literally every other available offensive tackle in the country? Well, it fundamentally comes down to chemistry and a highly specific, proven scouting pipeline. Neal is an Iowa State alum. And if you've been paying attention, the Texans have become quietly obsessed with farming talent from this exact Midwest program. It's wild. Right now, there are a staggering 6 former Cyclones currently on the Texans roster. Neal joins David Montgomery, Jaden Higgins, Jalen Knoll, and Xavier Hutchinson. There is an undeniable established DNA here. Houston knows exactly how Matt Campbell's players are coached up in Ames. They know the 5-star culture, they know intimately how these prospects process information, how obsessively they prepare for games, and how violently they fight in the trenches. Add in the very crucial fact that Neal started at left tackle for a year and a half in the absolute grinder that is the Big 12 Conference, and suddenly, his chances of actually stealing a 53-man roster spot are highly, highly probable. He isn't just a flyer, he is the ultimate hidden gem perfectly tailored to the gritty culture of this locker room. Section 2. Protecting the star pass rushers and the edge rusher dilemma. Okay, but an elite offense, a fortified offensive line, that's only half the equation, right? On the other side of the ball, a completely different, incredibly high-stakes battle is brewing. 30. Just let that number sink in for a moment. Just process it. That is the combined sack total from Will Anderson and Daniel Hunter last year. 30 sacks between just 2 players. It is a jaw-dropping, staggering display of sheer violence and absolute dominance. These two are the apex predators of D'Amico Ryan's defense. They are literally the reason opposing quarterbacks cannot sleep during game week. They are game wreckers. But, and this is a massive but, they are also human beings. And relying solely on 2 human beings to carry the entire weight of your pass rush for 17 grueling, punishing weeks is a very, very dangerous game to play. And here is why. Here is the critical, underlying conflict that defensive coordinators lose sleep over: trench fatigue and the 2-minute drill. You see, a defense that looks completely elite on paper, an absolute juggernaut, can still be incredibly vulnerable to the brutal physical realities of the game of football. Even the greatest, most physically gifted edge rushers in NFL history simply cannot maintain their peak bend, their explosive burst, if their lungs are absolutely burning and their legs are completely filled with lactic acid by the 4th quarter. Football is a game of biology just as much as it is a game of scheme and strategy. When an opposing offense methodically runs the ball right down your throat with heavy personnel for 3 quarters, just leaning on you, wearing you out, and then suddenly shifts into a rapid-fire, no-huddle, 2-minute drill, exhaustion is the ultimate enemy. It's a killer. The biometric data proves it time and time again. Burst speeds plummet. A tired pass rusher, no matter how talented, is an ineffective pass rusher. And look, this isn't just some abstract theory we're drafting on a whiteboard here. This is a visceral, harsh reality from inside the building. Listen to Texans defensive line coach Rod Wright. He recently laid out exactly what happens when the physical tank hits empty. Quote, "You don't want to wear Will and Daniel out. You don't want him to be exhausted in 2 minutes. I learned from that my first year here, Atlanta. We're stopping the run. We put all of the efforts into stopping Bijan Robinson. We get in the 2-minute and Will is gassed. I remember watching that game and I'm like, man, I've got to save him." End quote. I mean, really think about the gravity of those words. Man, I've got to save him. This gives massive real-world consequence to our analysis today. If the coaching staff doesn't figure out a way to fundamentally protect their stars from pure exhaustion, the dam is going to break when it matters the most, in the playoffs. And that leads us right to the glaring gap in their armor right now. It's veteran experience. Danico Autry and Derek Barnett are gone. They've departed. That is a massive, massive amount of veteran security, nuanced hand-fighting technique, and elite situational awareness just walking right out the building. Stepping up to replace those crucial veteran snaps are Dylan Horton, Dominique Robinson, and Sebastian Harsh. Now, to be fair, these are highly talented young players, and honestly, one of them could absolutely have a massive breakout year. The potential is there for sure.
But they just don't yet provide that ironclad, proven veteran anchor that coaches crave in high-pressure situations. The depth simply isn't as battle-tested, as calloused as it was a year ago. It's just a biological fact that a 23-year-old rookie processes complex block combinations slightly slower than a savvy 10-year veteran. And that slight hesitation, it puts Anderson and Hunter at a significantly higher risk of being completely overworked on those grinding early downs.
Which brings us to the perfect defensive blueprint, the exact step-by-step coaching formula required to truly maximize a defensive line's ceiling. Step 1. You deploy your stars Anderson and Hunter on base downs to violently set the edge and just completely shut down the run game early. Step 2. You substitute. You bring in reliable, battle-proven rotational depth to take those brutal, grinding, physically taxing snaps in the middle of the game. You actively save the legs of your elite, premium talent. Step 3. The kill shot. It's third and long, the game is on the line, the stadium is deafening. Now you unleash a fully rested, fully energized, terrifying duo of Anderson and Hunter to just absolutely hunt the opposing quarterback. That right there, that is the definitive winning formula in the National Football League. But here's the catch. To execute Step 2 properly in January, they really need one more piece of the puzzle.
And that missing piece? It might still be waiting out there on the open market right now. There are highly capable veteran targets available who can provide exactly what Rod Wright is desperately looking for. We're talking guys like Jadeveon Clowney, Cameron Jordan, Von Miller. At this late stage of the offseason, these household legacy names are looking for cheap, one-year deals to just chase a ring. Securing just one of these seasoned, battle-scarred veterans before training camp kicks off would be the ultimate security blanket for this defense. Because think about it, you aren't asking them to play 60 grueling snaps a game anymore. You don't need them to be the hero. You are just asking them to play 20 highly efficient, incredibly violent situational snaps. They can diagnose complex run-pass options in their sleep. They have literally seen every single blocking scheme, every chip, every 2-minute drill in the book. Bringing one of them in takes a massive amount of pressure off the youth, and crucially, keeps the superstars incredibly fresh for a deep, deep playoff run.
Section 3. The final championship puzzle and meticulously engineering the NFL's best defense.
So we've looked at the incredibly granular details, right? We've analyzed the specific contract guarantees, the highly targeted college pipelines, the unavoidable biometric realities of trench fatigue, and the intricate snap count strategies. Now let's zoom out and look at the big picture, because this entire process is about meticulously engineering a 53-man roster with absolutely zero fatal flaws. It's about building an unbreakable machine, security on the edges, and finding those hidden gems in the trenches. That is the Super Bowl formula. It's not just about star power anymore. The Texans are attacking the absolute margins of their roster with surgical precision. By investing heavily in a massive, high-potential, undrafted prospect like James Neal III to lock down the offensive depth, and by acutely recognizing the desperate need for a veteran rotational edge rusher to literally save the legs of their defensive superstars, they are actively finding the final puzzle pieces. If they can win these specific, highly strategic micro-battles over the summer, this roster becomes an unstoppable force, a machine that absolutely does not break down, even when the environment gets incredibly hostile in January. So I leave you with this final thought. Are these the final hidden moves genuinely needed to secure a Super Bowl ring in Houston? Will James Neal III emerge from the undrafted shadows to absolutely dominate the trenches and secure that roster spot? Will the front office pull the trigger on a veteran pass rusher before training camp officially begins? The stakes literally could not be higher, and the silent, unforgiving war for the final 53-man roster has already begun. Thank you so much for diving into the obsessive, granular details with us today. Remember, you are watching NFL Nexus. If you want to keep following these critical, hidden storylines all season long, make sure you subscribe to the channel right now, like the video, and leave a comment down below with your thoughts on exactly who makes this final cut. We love reading your takes. And don't forget, you can support our deep dives directly by becoming a channel member. We'll see you next time.